All right, fight fans. You wanted the inside scoop on UFC 311, right? Well, we're about to break it all down. We're going deep on this one with Dana White's post-fight press conference. Get ready for some serious insights because this was a night for the record books.
Yeah, this was a big one. I mean, we're talking the highest grossing event ever at the Honda Center. Not only that, but it also set the record for the highest grossing MMA event in California.
Right.
Over $10 million. Can you believe that?
10.2 million to be exact. It's crazy to think they pulled this off with a last-minute main event change, too.
Right. Total chaos, just 24 hours before the event, but the UFC made it happen.
And with a sold-out crowd, the energy was insane. Honestly, it felt like a Super Bowl. So what do you think contributed to this level of success?
Well, you got to start with Islam Makhachev. He's become a global superstar. His dominance, his fighting style, it's just captivating.
Yeah, and don't forget the whole featherweight champ moving up to challenge for the lightweight title. That's a storyline that gets everyone talking, even people who don't usually follow UFC.
Definitely. You've got these two dominant champs from different weight classes colliding. It creates this huge question mark, who's really the best. Plus, the undercard was stacked too. Fan favorites like Merab Dvalishvili, up-and-comers looking to prove themselves. It was a recipe for a great night.
Speaking of Merab, that guy was an absolute beast. The pace he sets, those relentless takedowns, it's like he's a machine. But let's get back to Islam. His performance, it was just dot clinical. Dana even called him the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the world right there in the press conference.
Yeah, he looked incredible. Everything that makes him dangerous was on full display. That stifling grappling, the pressure he puts on his opponents, and his fight IQ is off the charts. It wasn't just a win, it was a masterclass in how to dominate a fight.
Do you think this win solidifies his legacy as one of the all-time greats?
It's definitely a huge step in that direction. Remember, he had some big shoes to fill after Khabib retired. The pressure was immense, but he's not just living up to the expectations, he's exceeding them.
And to do it on short notice, with a change of opponent, talk about a champion's mentality. But what about Volkanovski? It sounds like he's not getting an immediate rematch.
Yeah, Dana was pretty clear about that. He said Volkanovski will have to fight his way back to another title shot.
Wow, that's got to be tough to hear after such a dominant run as champ.
It is, but it also shows you how competitive the lightweight division is right now.
For sure, there are no easy fights at the top. But speaking of tough matchups, Merab's win over Umar was insane.
Absolutely. He just keeps racking up those wins. 9 in a row now.
And he broke George St. Pierre's takedown record. Dana even admitted he's having trouble finding Merab an opponent. What makes him such a challenge for other fighters, do you think?
It's that relentless pressure and his insane pace. He just never stops. Always moving forward, always looking for the takedown. It's mentally and physically exhausting to fight him.
You could see it on Umar's face by round 3. He was drained. It's like trying to wrestle a bear that never gets tired. So what's next for Merab? Where does he go from here with this win streak?
That's the big question, isn't it? He's called out the champ. But with his teammate holding the belt, that fight's unlikely. And as Dana said, finding someone willing to face that kind of pressure is a challenge in itself.
You know, it makes you wonder if this will force other fighters to change their game plans. You can't just hope to outstrike a guy like Merab. You have to be prepared to grapple.
I think you're right. It'll be interesting to see how the bantamweight division adapts to his style. Do they focus more on defensive grappling? Try to keep the fight standing? We'll have to wait and see. But one thing's for sure. Merab has brought a whole new level of excitement to the division.
He's completely changed the game. But before we move on to other fighters and their futures, we have to talk about a really special moment from UFC 311. Craig Piligian, the creator of The Ultimate Fighter, was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame.
What a well-deserved honor.
Yeah.
His vision brought us so many UFC stars, introduced the sport to a whole new audience.
And Dana's story about surprising him with the news, it was pretty heartwarming. It really highlighted the impact The Ultimate Fighter has had on MMA.
For sure. It was a beautiful tribute to someone who's dedicated so much to growing the sport, a great reminder of the history and the legacy that makes the UFC so special. But speaking of the future, UFC 311 gave us some interesting hints about what might be next for certain fighters.
Like Charles Oliveira, he was looking sharp all week, ready to go.
And with Volkanovski needing to work his way back to a title shot, a lot of people are wondering if Oliveira is next in line for Islam.
Let's dive into that and more when we come back for part 2 of this deep dive.
It's the question everyone's asking, right? Is Charles next for the title?
Especially now that Volkanovski's got a longer road back, it seems like.
Yeah.
You could just feel Oliveira's presence all week. Like he was making a statement just by being there, you know? Looking sharp, ready to go.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you think Dana's keeping his options open on purpose? Is he just trying to build up the suspense?
Well, he's always been good at that, hasn't he? Building that anticipation. He did mention a few possibilities, but he was pretty vague when it came to Oliveira specifically. Remember, he also talked about Chimaev as a potential contender at middleweight?
Oh, yeah, after the Strickland-Duplessis fight, right?
Exactly.
So we got Chimaev maybe moving up. Then you got Merab on this crazy win streak.
You can't ignore a guy like Merab, not with those wins.
And not just the wins, but the way he's winning.
Right.
That dominant grappling style, nobody's figured out how to beat it yet.
Nope. It's a puzzle, for sure.
Even Dana called their relationship goofy when someone asked about finding Merab an opponent. Goofy. I mean, what's that about?
I don't think there's any bad blood or anything. I think it's more like Dana loves fighters who are exciting, guys who are willing to just go out there and brawl. But Merab's also been pretty vocal about waiting for the right fight, the right moment.
Yeah, he's definitely patient.
And that creates a little bit of tension, right? You got Dana who wants action and Merab who's playing the long game. And then you've got Khabib saying that Merab was pressured into taking this fight on short notice.
Wait, hold on. Pressure from the UFC.
That's what Khabib's implying.
So this goofy relationship, there's more to it than meets the eye.
Could be.
I mean, Dana didn't exactly deny it when he was asked about it.
He didn't.
He just said it worked out well for Merab in the end.
Which did. But it makes you wonder about those behind-the-scenes conversations, right?
Oh, yeah. How much leverage does the UFC really have? Makes you think.
Makes you think.
But it's a business at the end of the day. And the UFC is built on delivering exciting fights, and they do that really well. Speaking of which, somebody brought up the fact that there weren't any Mexican fighters on this card, which is interesting considering the event was in California.
Yeah, I saw that.
What do you think about Dana's response to that?
I thought he made a good point about the sport evolving. It's not just about regional appeal anymore. It's truly global.
We're seeing top fighters coming from all over the world.
Exactly. Look at Islam from Dagestan, Francis Ngannou from Cameroon. The UFC is pulling talent from everywhere.
It's amazing.
And Dana actually confirmed that they're going to Mexico City later this year.
Nice.
So Mexican fans will get their event soon enough.
Awesome. But there's another big change coming that could really shake things up. The rankings overhaul. This AI thing, what do you make of it?
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Is the UFC really going to let a computer decide the rankings?
Well, it's not that simple. It sounds like the AI is going to analyze fighter performance and contribute to the rankings.
So, like, the AI is watching the fights, crunching numbers?
Basically, yeah.
That's pretty wild.
It's definitely a new frontier. I'm sure it'll spark some debates about objectivity versus human judgment.
For sure, for sure. Okay, gotta ask about this boxing thing. There were rumors flying around about Dana getting into boxing. Did he address that at all?
Oh, yeah, he shut that down pretty quickly.
Really?
Remember that New York Times article that said he was starting a boxing league? He called it incredibly premature.
So no Dana White's Contender Series for boxing then?
Not anytime soon, at least according to him. But he did confirm something pretty big. The Apex is getting a massive expansion.
No way, really?
Yeah, something like $26 to $30 million in upgrades.
Wow, that's a serious investment. What are they planning to do with all that space?
Well, more space, obviously, but also upgraded facilities. And he hinted at hosting other combat sports, maybe even some entertainment events.
Interesting. So maybe that boxing door isn't completely closed after all.
Who knows?
All right, before we get too far off track, let's get back to the fighters. I know a lot of people were hoping to see Arman Tsarukyan on this card, especially with the event being in Southern California, and his Armenian fan base is huge out here.
Yeah, he's a popular guy.
And he was really classy about stepping aside when the main event changed.
He was.
Any word on when we might see him fight again?
Dana didn't give any specifics, but he did say that Tsarukyan would be featured on a future California card. Good to hear. Good to hear. Okay, before we wrap up part 2 here, let's recap some of the key takeaways from this record-breaking night. Okay, so we've got Islam at the top, the pound-for-pound king. We've got Merab on this insane win streak, becoming the guy to beat at bantamweight. And the UFC is expanding everywhere, going global. Mexico City later this year. It's crazy. It feels like the whole landscape of the sport is changing right in front of us.
Yeah, it's definitely a dynamic time for the UFC, that's for sure. You've got these dominant champs like Islam, but then you got guys like Merab coming up, challenging the status quo. And with these ranking changes coming, who knows what's going to happen.
That AI thing, it's exciting, but I'm still a little skeptical.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it actually works in practice.
Will it favor certain fighting styles? Will it really be more objective? So many
It's a
questions.
lot to figure out.
And then you got the Apex expansion on top of all that. That's a big deal. Opens up all sorts of possibilities for new events, maybe even different combat sports.
It does feel like Dana's thinking way ahead, like he's always playing chess. He is. He is. It makes you wonder, what's the future of the UFC going to look like? 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what's it going to be?
It's a good question. I think we're going to see even more global expansion, that's for sure. More
Yeah.
diverse fighting styles, maybe even some rule changes to keep things fresh.
I'm excited already, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Back to UFC 311, what were your biggest takeaways from the night?
It was a night of answers, but also a lot of new questions. We got confirmation that Islam is the real deal, that Merab's a top contender, no doubt, and that the UFC is serious about global domination. But we're also left wondering, what's next for Volkanovski? Can anyone beat Merab? How will these ranking changes actually work?
So many unanswered questions, but hey, that's what keeps us coming back for more, right? The intrigue, the drama, the excitement of seeing these incredible athletes do what they do.
It's a sport that always delivers.
That's right. All right, fight fans, that's our deep dive on UFC 311. We broke it all down, the highlights, the key moments, what it all means for the future of the sport.
Hopefully you learned a thing or two and maybe even changed your mind about a few things.
Now we want to hear from you. What were your biggest takeaways? What are your predictions for the rest of the year? Head over to our social media and let us know. We're always looking for the hottest takes and the boldest predictions. Until next time, keep training, keep watching, and keep that fighting spirit alive.
Punchlines and punches, hard hits, sharp wit, no holding back.